Money making is at the heart of GTA Online, and if you want to make lots of video game money every single day, nothing beats a good business, or several businesses, because after the Money Fronts DLC, we now have 25 businesses in this game, which is an insane amount just to think about, but the good news is that you don't have to own every single one of them. If you're new to the game, you can build your way up by purchasing the best ones early on, and getting the less desirable businesses later, just to play around with some different types of content and have some fun and variety in GTA. Not every business is created equal, and some are simply better than others, which is why last year I created a complete ranking list for every single business in GTA Online, starting with garbage tier at the bottom and going all the way up to god tier at the top. Well, guess what? We're about to do it again, except updated for the year 2025, and this time I'll also include the new Mackenzie Airfield as well as the new hands-on car wash businesses to see how these new entries stack up against the old guard. And once again, starting things off at the bottom of our list, we've got the defending champion of trash, the Document Forgery Office, which reclaims its title once again as the single worst business in the entire game at the bottom of garbage tier. Not only is the payout abysmal at just $20,000 per hour with upgrades, by the way, but the locations are also super poor because none of them are close to your other businesses. I mean, look at this. Elysian Island, Grapeseed, there's even one all the way up in Paleto Bay. And if you don't own something like an Oppressor or a Sparrow, this is straight up torture, just traveling between these locations. The only decent one is going to be in Textile City, but even then it's easily the worst MC business in the game without a doubt. You could literally make more money by doing daily activities, and those take less time than running the Document Forgery Office. Number 2 on my list is going to be the Arena Workshop, and while the recent DLC has actually doubled permanently the amount of arena points that you get from playing, it's still far from ideal as we need a complete overhaul of the payout structure and content variety to make this aging business appealing. As of now, the only reason you'd even need to own this business is if you just like how the Arena War vehicles look, and I'll admit, they are pretty sick, like the ZR380, the Cerberus, as well as the Apocalypse Dominator, but unless you're building some sort of Mad Max garage, this business isn't really worth owning for the money, in my opinion. Plus, nobody even plays Arena War these days, so half the time you'll just be sitting in an empty lobby waiting for players to join up. Now, one tier up from garbage tier is the bad tier, and these businesses are going to be slightly better than the last two in terms of payout and quality of content, but I'd still advise against them if you're a serious grinder because they're just not worth the time investment. Take, for example, the high-end apartment, which gives you access to the 5 OG heists. These did get a payout buff in 2022, but they still aren't really worth your time unless you're a new player and have literally never played them before. Even then, you can just get invited to these heists, and you don't have to actually own the high-end apartment unless you're the one hosting. For new players, this is definitely not a great way to make money, and that's why I'm relegating it to the B tier, even if you want to purchase a bunch of high-end apartments to have extra garage space and places to live. The next entry in the bad tier is the facility. Now, if you're a super rich guy in GTA Online with a few $1 million to spare as well as a tank to store, you might actually be interested in purchasing a facility. By itself, this business doesn't really offer anything, which is why I put it in the bad tier, but if you really enjoy the Doomsday Heist, you might just rank it higher. Yes, I'm talking about all you Bogdan problem glitchers. I personally feel like the Doomsday Heist though just isn't worth it to grind for money as a legit solo player because it takes way too long, but if you got players in your friend group who like a challenge, it might be the perfect heist for you because of the added complexity and high stakes gameplay. By the way, owning a facility also gives you access to the orbital laser cannon, which is the most expensive way of killing someone in the game and lets people know that you've got cash to burn. Quite literally, because the guided shot costs a whopping $750,000 to use. Alright, now that we've dealt with the garbage and the bad tiers, let's talk about the next tier. This one includes businesses that aren't absolutely terrible, but they aren't exactly that great either, which makes them mid-tier. First, we've got the Bail Office, which was introduced in June of 2024 with the bottom dollar bounties update, and I know it wasn't received super well at the time, but I personally don't really mind it too much these days because I can just log in, get done with a quick most wanted bounty for $125,000 on average, grab the money from my safe that my agents collected for me the previous time I was there, and go on with the rest of my grind. However, the Bail Office payout overall is just going to be average once you include the upfront investment for all the upgrades. It isn't all that impressive. Unless you really like grinding the same standard bounty targets over and over and over, which in this case is technically possible to make $150,000 an hour at the expense of your sanity. That's why I don't really recommend this to grinders or even new players because there are so many better options at cheaper price points. By the way, you can buy bail agents to boost your passive income with the Bail Office, but these guys cost $750,000 each to employ and they bring in a measly $20,000 combined. So yeah, definitely not going to be worth it for most players. That's why I'm ranking it low, even though I use it every single day. And also, if you accidentally kill a bounty target, you lose 75% of your income off the bat. So having a stun gun is going to be an absolute must with this business, unless you want to fill up the local morgue with body bags every time you drive out to grab a bounty. For now, I'm going to put the bail office in the upper half of mid tier, but that's where it stays until Rockstar either buffs the payouts or they add more targets with decreased cooldowns. The next mid-tier business is going to be the Walter White Math Lab, where you can make shiny blue crystals that supply the youth of GTA Online with the motivation they need to go on a murderous rampage throughout the city of Los Santos. While the Math Lab can pump out $40,000 an hour with upgrades, it doesn't quite reach the level of the Coca-Cola lockup, and so I'm going to leave this one in the mid-tier. And now it's time to discuss an MC business that's been buffed with the recent Money Fronts DLC. I'm talking about the Grass Farm, which will pay you out 35% more now if you own the Smoke on the Watergrass dispensary. But is that enough of an upgrade to take the weed farm into the good tier? I don't quite think so, but I'm going to put it close to the top of the mid tier. Almost at the level of good tier, but not quite there yet because we still get multiple delivery vehicles every time we want to do a delivery with a full MC business. And if you're a solo player, that can be a major pain in the butt because you may get a dodo or a garbage truck sell mission, and that takes forever to drive around the city. Then you have to fly back to the next vehicle on your Sparrow or Oppressor and do it all over again a few more times. Sure, they did remove the post-op vans, but that's like applying a bandage to a giant gaping wound. If you want to just farm MC businesses, it can take up your entire day of playing GTA Online, and that's just not that fun and smart to do. If you have a squad, yeah, the Grass Farm is going to make it into the good tier for you, but if you're solo, like most of the people watching this channel, I'm going to say it still belongs in the mid tier. A couple of slots higher than where it was last time for sure, but still mid in my opinion. And remember, that 35% bonus only applies to sell missions you do from the laptop. That doesn't apply to street dealers. Our final mid-tier business, the White Powder Lockup, is one of the best MC businesses in the game and earns itself a well-deserved spot at the top of mid-tier due to its solid payout and passive nature. Similar to other MC businesses like the Bunker, all you have to do is purchase resupplies and go on the occasional sell mission to make over $60,000 an hour. And yes, you can definitely cosplay as Tony Montana while doing your deliveries if you so please. Alright, now we're finally in the good tier, and my first entry in this tier is going to be the Counterfeit Cash Factory, which also has received a 35% buff with this new update. And if you own the car wash, you can now make close to $500,000 with a full bar of product. The only reason I'm including it in here is because of the payout, which is surprisingly a bit higher than even with the Coca-Cola lockup, the previous reigning champion of MC businesses. Yeah, the gross profit is going to be slightly higher with the Coca-Cola lockup as it sells for $525,000, but it also takes quite a bit longer to fill up, and the net profit per hour is higher now with the Counterfeit Cash Factory. In fact, a Reddit user did the math, and it turns out the Counterfeit Cash Factory with the car wash buff applied is on par with the Acid Lab in terms of profit per hour, but obviously the Acid Lab is so much easier to manage as you can simply just resupply by calling Mutt, and deliveries always involve a single vehicle no matter what. Hence, while the Counterfeit Cash Factory makes it into the good tier, it barely does so, and it's the absolute bottom of good tier in my opinion. An upgrade from last year, absolutely, and also finally worth owning for serious solo grinding players who were indifferent towards MC businesses before, but that's about it. The Vehicle Warehouse is also getting a rank upgrade on my list compared to last time, and I like this business a lot, but on my ranking list, I put it a tier below where it should have been, and that's because with the explanation I said that it takes a lot of work to set up properly. GTA Online players are lazy and they'd rather the game just play for them, so they probably don't want to deal with that, and that still kind of holds true with this business nowadays. It still takes a lot of work to set up, but that doesn't mean once you get it there, it's not an awesome way to make money once you do so. The trick to running this business in its meta fashion is to only source and sell top range vehicles. To do this, you first need to source 10 standard range vehicles first and then 10 mid range vehicles. Make sure you've got no duplicates in there. If you do, sell them. That's important because if you have duplicates in license plates or vehicle types, they won't count towards that 10 vehicle number. Then keep the standard and 10 mid-range vehicles in your warehouse. Never sell those because at this point on, you're guaranteed to only get top range vehicles anytime you do a source mission. I also recommend grabbing a terabyte because it makes sourcing missions a whole lot easier as you don't have to spawn in your CEO office every time you want to start a new source mission. So that's super easy to help as you kind of get the process going while you fill your warehouse with a bunch of vehicles. Now that method works perfectly fine, but I've personally done the 12 top range vehicle method on top of the 10 standard and 10 mid range. That way I sell the 12th top range vehicle and I could source it right back. And so what that allows me to do is pick and choose which top range car I get to sell and source. It won't just be a random top range vehicle, and I like having that extra control even if I did more work at the beginning than absolutely necessary. Next up, we've got the Bunker, and I'm going to put this one in the good tier as well. The gun running business generates $60,000 an hour with equipment and staff upgrades, which is nothing special, but if you combine it with the ammunition operation drop-offs, you earn an additional $50,000 for a total of $110,000 an hour. The only downside I can see is that for a solo player, selling a full bunker of product involves up to 4 sale vehicles, so there's going to be a lot of back and forth most of the time, and that can be avoided in many ways, like only resupplying the bunker once and then selling that amount of product once you use all those supplies. By the way, don't forget to invest in the research section of your bunker once you made enough cash as well, because you can unlock some really good ammo types for your personal weapons, as well as other weapon upgrades for your vehicles like mines, mortars, heavy machine guns, and more. A new addition to my list for 2025 is the Mackenzie Field Hangar, and I'm not going to ask you to do the gun running missions as those are pretty mediocre, but the main reason anyone gets this hangar is so that they could start the Oscar Guzman Flies Again questline in Heist, which pays out $500,000 on normal difficulty or $750,000 on hard difficulty for about an hour of work. Pretty lucrative from a money-making point of view if you ask me, and worthy of being included on the good tier. The Cluck and Bell farm rate is very similar in the fact that it makes you $500,000 per playthrough of that storyline, but that's basically all it is. It's a series of missions, and so unlike the Mackenzie Field Hangar, with Cluck and Bell, there's no other property or business associated with it. It's just Vincent giving you missions that you can use to make money from. That being said, if you want to consider the Cluck and Bell farm rate a business, then also that would go in the good tier too, just like the Oscar Guzman storyline, but the whole operation is a lot more business-esque since you have a property and other side missions associated with owning this airfield hangar as well. Moving on, we've got the arcade, which also sits comfortably in the good tier, and the main reason I put this business in the good tier is because of the Diamond Casino Heist, which is considered by some to be the best in the entire game, alongside Cayo Perico, because of just how much cash it pays out. You can also make a small amount of passive cash through your legit arcade business, depending on how many arcade games you've had installed. That maxes out at $5,000 per in-game day, which isn't a whole lot, but it does add up over time when you play the game a lot. And on top of that, the arcade also has the master control terminal, and even though it's kind of been replaced by a better version inside of the Terabyte, I know a lot of OG players also have the arcade terminal by now, and that's going to let you resupply all your businesses and save you tons of time if you set the arcade as your spawn point. Then anytime you're outside, you can just call your Terabyte. The auto shop also makes it into the good tier today because you can earn over $400,000 an hour with auto shop robbery contracts. Now let me explain. First, you get to choose from a roster of 8 total contracts. Most of these pay anywhere from $170,000 to $185,000 per contract, and they take about 25 minutes. But there is one meta contract called the Union Depository contract, which pays you out a whopping $300,000, even though it doesn't actually take any more time than normal contracts. In fact, you can do it in about 20 minutes. Now, you can't redo the same contract because there is a cooldown, but you can easily make $470,000 an hour by just focusing on the Union Depository contract combined with any other contract. And that's not all. The auto shop also unlocks every single vehicle upgrade in the game, irrespective of your rank and level, and you get a discount on top of that since you're the shop owner. So if you love tinkering with vehicles and upgrading them, the auto shop is one of the coolest purchases that you can make. And if you really want to cosplay as a crime lord, you definitely need a CEO office, which can be yours for the bargain price of just $1 million if you go with the Maze Bank West option. I'm actually going to put this business in the good tier, and I know some of you have questions at this point, so let me explain. By itself, the CEO office isn't all that great on its own. Sure, you can do the export mixed goods missions, which pay $50,000 on a 48-minute cooldown, but the real reason anyone buys the CEO office is so that they can gain access to the special storage warehouse as well as the vehicle warehouse. Those are 2 massive cash generators, and they can easily make a CEO office worth the investment. And speaking of warehouses, let's see how Special Cargo stacks up against other businesses in 2025. While it hasn't received any major buffs unlike its cousin, the Hangar, the Special Cargo warehouse is still going to be one of the best ways to make money long-term in GTA. And yes, the grind will get monotonous as all you're doing is collecting crates and fighting the same NPCs over and over as you bring those crates back to a warehouse, but you could just use the technicians in the warehouse to passively source your crates, and when it's time to sell, that's when you could sell. I play the game a lot, my techs are always sourcing crates for me, I'm never sourcing crates myself, and so I use the techs to make money on this business when otherwise I wouldn't be making a single dollar on them. What players also do is have their techs source Special Cargo and they wait for double money to sell, and that's also a good strategy. These sell missions have the potential to pay more in a single mission compared to any other business in the game, with up to $5 or $6 million at a time if you own 5 large warehouses, and so that's why I'm going to keep the Special Cargo warehouse in the good tier, because it is still good for a long-term player. And let's not forget about the Hangar, which is definitely retaining its spot in the good tier. Same as last year, only this time it's even better, because if you own the Higgins Helicopter Tour business with the Money Fronts update, you get a 10% buff and bonus on all of your air freight Hangar cargo sell missions. And since we have Rooster as a technician now, all we have to do is go into our settings, set the Hangar as our spawn point, spawn in, pay Rooster $25,000, and he's going to do all the work sourcing crates for you. As always, Medical supplies, chemicals, and narcotics pay the most if you're sourcing crates manually and you're choosing, but even if you're sourcing random crates through Rooster, you can still make millions of dollars with 50 crates, which is insanely good for next to no work at all. And remember, this is in an invite-only lobby without any high demand bonus. If you're in a full lobby, that 50% bonus kicks in, and you're able to make millions of dollars for 50 crate sell missions, and over $4 million if you focus on specific crate types and use the high value stuff like chemicals, narcotics, or medical supplies. The next entry in the good tier isn't particularly super exciting, but it is essential because if you're interested in any of the MC businesses, you will first need to own the MC Clubhouse. So this automatically makes it jump into the good tier just because of that. It also opens up activities like bike deliveries, which pay $50,000 every 48 minutes. And you'll also find a selection of biker contract missions that take around 5 to 10 minutes to complete, and they have a payout of about $30,000 each. So not only is it the foundation upon which all other MC businesses are built on, but it can also act as a decent source of income on its own. And for the final business in the good tier, we've got the Salvage Yard, which has 3 different ways of making money. The first 2 are the office, safe, and the tow truck missions, but the third and most profitable way to make money from the Salvage Yard is by stealing expensive vehicles that are worth up to $400,000 per sell mission. These mini heists take just under 30 minutes if you know what you're doing, and if you're one of the lucky few who purchased the document forgery office without doing any research, only to get disappointed here, I have good news. Occasionally, you can claim one of the expensive stolen cars worth $400,000 as your own for a lowly fee of just $10,000, which means your document forgery office isn't entirely useless after all. Also, your mechanics in the Salvage Yard will salvage cars for parts even if you're offline, and it's one of the few businesses in the game that work this way, alongside bail agents in your bail office and Rooster, who will source Hangar crates even while you're offline, or warehouse techs, for example. So that's something to keep in mind because you can always do a couple of tow truck jobs right before logging off, and your Salvage Yard will keep generating money in the background the next time you log in. Now we finally arrived at the God tier. To kick things off, we've got the Acid Lab, which is easily one of the best sources of passive income in GTA Online for a few main reasons. First, it's extremely beginner friendly, as you can get the Brigade 6x6 vehicle that you need for the Acid Lab for absolutely free just by doing the first dose missions. 0 investment required, as you don't have to purchase any properties. Okay, sure, you do need to spend $750,000 to actually set up the lab and even more money to upgrade the equipment, but you'll easily get most of that just by doing the first dose and Fooligan missions. Secondly, the Acid Lab can comfortably generate over $100,000 an hour, and this is before the public lobby high demand bonus, which adds up to a 50% bonus on the sale, bringing you closer to $160,000 an hour, which is excellent. And then we've got the Nightclub, which is considered by many to be the best passive source of income in the game because it's so easy to operate and makes loads of money for you. I'm putting this one in the God tier right next to the Acid Lab. However, one big disclaimer here: on its own, without any warehouse earnings, the Nightclub isn't super impressive. It's still good, but it's not super meta. But once you have all the businesses like the Math Lab, the Bunker, special cargo warehouses, you can also go into your Nightclub and assign techs to each one of these businesses who will source materials for you. And this is different from resupplying because you don't actually have to do anything other than just assigning 5 techs to the best businesses that you own. Combining this with the Office Safe, which makes $50,000 on its own if you have max popularity, the Nightclub is capable of generating $100,000 per hour. And the best part is that it's completely passive income, so you can be doing other stuff in the background, and your Nightclub will keep generating this cash for you in the background. Now, of course, you do have to do a sell mission, but the sell missions are solo friendly, and you also get 1 vehicle. But for the love of God, buy a Pounder Custom so you don't have to deal with that awful piece of crap that is the Mule Custom, because once you buy that one, you can't get rid of it, and it's the worst one to use for sell missions. The next God tier entry on my list is the recently released Darnell Bros Garment Factory, which was part of last year's Agents of Sabotage update. If you watch my previous videos on the Agents of Sabotage DLC, you'll know that the regular FIB file missions give you around $200,000 with the bonus objectives, and they can be done in under 30 minutes with a 5-minute cooldown in between missions. That's a solid chunk of cash for a 30-minute mini heist, and the cooldown is also really low, which means you can spam these files to easily earn $400,000 an hour. But wait, that's not even the best part, because every week you have a priority mission which pays out over $300,000, and that's before you add in the bonus for completing optional challenges. And with the bonus objectives on top of the mission, you'll easily make $350,000 from the priority file, and it only takes 30 minutes like the regular missions. So while it can get repetitive after you play through all 4 missions multiple times, the content is still fairly easy. It has a really low cooldown between these, and you can do everything from your phone with the Darnell Bros app, which Rockstar added, and that's why this business is super convenient to operate and easily makes its way into the God tier. Now it's finally time to take a look at the hands-on car wash, and you guys know this is making it into the god tier, not because it's part of the latest update or because it makes a ton of money in its own regard, but because the hands-on car wash is your gateway to 2 other new businesses, and it also buffs the counterfeit cash factory, which is finally worth grinding now thanks to that 35% sale value buff, and that's going to be one of the most lucrative MC businesses in the game nowadays. Plus, if you purchase the smoke shop as well as the helicopter tour businesses as well, those buff your MC grass farm as well as your hangar businesses too by 35% and 10% respectively, so they make those good businesses even better as well. I also like the mission variety with the hands-on car wash and money laundering operations, as those will make you $400,000 an hour, and that's pretty awesome for content that takes about 5 minutes or so to complete. There is 0 cooldown between missions, and you can initiate everything from your phone just like with the agency, and that's awesome. The agency itself is also getting a major upgrade with the Money Fronts DLC. It was in god tier before, but now it's super god tier because we can now finally skip the dang cutscenes in the Dr. Dre contract, and that alone brings the completion time for this heist down by about 12 minutes. Plus, Imani Tech has been buffed with a bunch of new vehicles, 50 new ones to be exact, and the agency is the only place where you can install this tech, so it's definitely a must buy if you haven't done so already. Last but not least, it's time for everyone's favorite business, the Kasaka Submarine. Yes, I know, it's technically a vehicle, but hear me out. What other vehicle in the game provides better returns for your money? For just $2.2 million, the Kasaka unlocks the Cayo Perico heist, which to this day is the #1 grinding method used by so many despite all the nerfs it's received, and if you do everything right, you can make $1.2 million on average in less than an hour. So with just 2 heists, you recover the cost of your submarine and make a profit on top of that. Plus, the Kasaka also unlocks the Sparrow helicopter, which for $1.8 million is an absolute bargain, and it's easily one of the best grinding tools in the game alongside the Oppressor Mark II. And so because of this, just for you guys, I will put it at the top of god tier, because no matter what other business I talk about, someone will end up commenting Cayo better. There you have it. That's my new and updated 2025 ranking list for all 25 businesses in the entire game. Let me know what you think of this in the comments below. Which of these businesses are going to be your favorite? Would you rank any of them differently? If you found this video entertaining, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe for more if you want to see more GTA Online videos like this. Also check me out over on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram, specifically twitch.tv/HazardOusHDTV for daily GTA Online live streams. I upload 2 daily short form rapid fire tips, tricks, news, guides, and more in the form of YouTube shorts and TikToks as well for you to check out. And again, thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic day. I'll see you guys in the next GTA 5 online video. Adios, amigos.